walking through a ghost town. Y'all ain't playing my sounds. Don't tell me to calm down. Don't tell me to calm down. Only time I go backwards is when I wanna moonwalk. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. We are who we say that we are. You were lost in the stars, and it's all from the start. Never running no pace, never on the right page. But we still read that book, and we still run that race. Ay. Mississippi Racer riding out, no shortcuts, no time for that. Mississippi Racer riding out till the wheels fall off, I'm driving that. Mississippi Racer riding out, we'll stop burning, strike the match. Mississippi Racer riding out, red light, green light, red light, good night. Ay. Red light, green light, red light, good night. 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 Time to chill, don't sweat it.
Good morning and welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show powered by Wire to Wire Network. Thank you so much for making us part of your morning routine. Whether you are watching us live on Facebook, live on YouTube, live on Twitter, or you are watching us live on Roku TV, thank you to the wonderful folks over there at Northeast Sports Productions. I am Chris, and of course, that over there, that is Mo. Mo, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Feel good Thursday. Heading into the weekend. I'm excited. I think it's going to be another big sports weekend.
Mo, do you know what the company Wilson is known for?
Off the top of my head, basketballs.
Basketballs, yeah. Wilson is the company that makes the basketballs. If you said Castaway, I would have given you that as well.
That's awful.
I would have said okay. I would have said okay there. Let me increase your Wilson knowledge here, Mo. There's been one athlete, and it was back in the 80s. There was one athlete that ever had an exclusive contract with Wilson for his own merchandise. Do you know who that athlete was?
In the 80s?
Yep.
Man, I don't know.
Late 80s.
Late 80s.
NBA player.
Well, the first thing come to mind would be Michael Jordan.
Correct. Michael Jordan is the only athlete to ever have his own personal line of anything with the company Wilson until this morning, when Wilson announced their special Caitlin Clark basketball. So once again, Mo, for all these people who just seem to think that she is nothing more than a white girl who is semi-good at basketball, Wilson, the company that makes basketballs, before this morning, has given exclusive basketball production to one other name in the history of basketball, and it was Michael Jordan. They just said, you know what? We think we got to do it again, and we think we're going to have an exclusive basketball for Caitlin Clark. Does that not say something, Mo?
It says Wilson believes she moves the needle, which we've talked about numerous times. It also says that she's about to catch a lot more hate.
Yep, because LeBron didn't get a ball, Kobe didn't get a ball. Give me any name you want in the NBA. Unless you give me Michael Jordan, they didn't get a ball. No WNBA player has ever gotten a ball. Caitlin Clark now has an exclusive Wilson ball. It is gold, apparently. It is emblazed with different symbols that represent Caitlin and what she has done so far in her career, and it is available for purchase as of this morning. Mo, that comes on top of her exclusive $28 million contract with Nike, and she also has contracts with State Farm, Gatorade, Panini, and Gamebridge. Needless to say, she might be making a ton of money in the WNBA, but she is certainly capitalizing on her success in other aspects when it comes to marketing and endorsements, which good for her, Mo. Good for her.
Good for any athlete. But yeah, I mean, like you said, the WNBA can't really pay them anywhere near what an NBA salary would get. But good for her that she's capitalizing on this moment. And look, like I said, if she turns out to be the player that we think she'll be, and I still think this is a rookie season, but it's a tougher rookie season than most because she has got the biggest bullseye on the planet on her back. I still think that she's going to be worth every penny spent on her when it's all said and done.
Well, coming into game number 5, she was averaging 17 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, shooting 41.2% from the field. They lost game number 5. The Fever have fallen to 0-5. But Mo, let's not forget, nobody expected the Fever to be a good team this season. They do have some pieces, but by no means were they expected to be a championship contending team. I think you could argue that the ceiling for this team was maybe a fringe playoff team if all things went well. But obviously, that's a steep mountain to climb. They picked back to back in the WNBA draft close to the top for a reason, did they not, Mo?
Right. There's a reason why you have access to the lottery pick. So yeah, I'm with you. I think this team is a team that they're literally developing and drafting their future right now. The last couple of drafts, so it's going to take a minute. There's some really good teams in this league. I mean,
Well, they've Liberty twice in their first 5 games. So.
Yeah. Welcome to the NBA or the WNBA, Caitlin Clark. Like, yeah, exactly. So I think that if you're a Caitlin Clark fan, you probably already know you're gonna have to have patience. If you're an Indiana Fever fan, they already know that their team isn't one of the better teams. But I think you have a reason to be excited, right? You already talked about what the attendance looks like, what the ratings look like. So I still think everything is on the upswing. And like you said, for all her struggles, 17, 5, and 5, basically 41% from the field. And when you think about most of her shots coming from 3, I would say that her field goal percentage, her true field goal percentage, is actually higher than that.
100%. So, Mo, with OTAs starting, that means we have a lot of NFL players who are in and out of the building. And now we have a lot of NFL players who are being put in front of a microphone, which means we are getting a ton of sound bites coming out of the NFL as we are gearing up with OTAs leading into training camps and eventually the start of the preseason in only a few months. We are only a few months away from preseason football, which is crazy to think about. But one of the sound bites that we got yesterday was from Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, who was reported yesterday to be completely cleared of any limitations. He is practicing fully. He appears to be completely recovered from his Achilles injury, and in the sense that they're not holding him back. So everything that he wants to do, that they want him to do, he has been cleared to do. He was asked yesterday at the podium because he talked earlier in the week, in the end of last week, he talked about pressure. And he talked about how there's a lot of pressure on him this season. And he said that basically in a throwaway soundbite. So he was asked again yesterday by the media, Aaron, you said that there's pressure on you. What do you mean by that? And Aaron was very transparent. He alluded to the fact that, if things don't go well this season, myself and a lot of other people that are currently on this team probably won't be back the season after. He even expanded a little bit further and said, when you get to a certain age in this league, if you're not performing, they're always looking to bring in the next guy to replace you. He goes, look at what happened in Green Bay. He goes, and I'm a few years older than that now. So if I'm not performing, they're going to be looking to bring in the next guy to replace me. And then he went on to say that he thrives in these situations and he loves the pressure and he likes the win now or get out mentality. So I have no issue at all, Mo, with what he said. I think he was very transparent. I think he was very honest. And I do think that if the New York Jets miss the playoffs this season, Aaron Rodgers won't be their quarterback next year. But I also don't think he would be their quarterback regardless, because I think he retires if they miss the playoffs this season. And it's just a horrible, miserable existence for him. But no, I think he's right. There's no situation where the Jets would bring him back, even if you wanted to come back, if they were to miss the playoffs this season, unless maybe it was another injury. I think maybe there's a slight chance the door is open if they get off to like a 6-2 start or an 8-1 start, or they're looking pretty good, and then he misses the rest of the season. Maybe there's a small percentage that they try to run it back one more time, having seen what he could do with the Jets when healthy. But even then, who even knows? But Mo, I like the fact that he acknowledged, yeah, we better get it done. Otherwise, it's not just me who is out on my behind. There's probably a handful of people that are out on their behinds on this current roster.
I would say there might be a few people that'll be unemployed that are on the coaching staff.
A few, yeah, absolutely,
Yeah,
and maybe in the front office
maybe
too.
right, exactly in the front office as well. And we already know by default if things don't go well and Aaron Rodgers isn't back, Mr. Haggett he won't be back either. They'll be looking for a new offensive coordinator. So I like the fact that he acknowledges what the stakes are. I thought the Green Bay line was interesting because I just thought it was a dig at Green Bay.
It was a shot for no
The
reason.
right, because the reality is that it's not like Jordan Love outplayed him and took the job away. Aaron Rodgers was still the better quarterback on that team. He just became kind of a headache with Green Bay. I just didn't think they wanted to deal with Aaron Rodgers. But look, if Aaron Rodgers goes out this season and he gives you let's say he throws for 4,100 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 6 picks, they're not going to say we can't do better than that. They're gonna absolutely want to bring him back. Now, if he has those types of numbers and the Jets miss the playoffs, that's different. Even though it wouldn't be his fault, they still have to look at big picture and go, at some point, right, you hit the wall. And you've got to have a contingency plan when Aaron Rodgers is no longer your quarterback. So I like the fact that he understands that this season is about all or nothing. And there are multiple jobs. I believe that in the front office and a few guys that are on the team who won't return if they don't achieve the success that the front office thinks they should achieve.
And Mo, this kind of talk is all fine and dandy when you're in the OTAs and you're heading into the season, you're in the preseason. But let's not forget the Jets are in the same division as the Buffalo Bills with Josh Allen. The Jets are in the same division as the Miami Dolphins. And Buffalo and Miami both have made the playoffs the past 2 seasons. Buffalo has what many regard to be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Miami has statistically a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, despite what your opinion of Tua might be out there in the sports universe right now. But what you can't argue is that Miami's had a top 5 offense the past 2 seasons. So you look at that, and I agree. If you're the New York Jets, the floor is the playoffs. But when you're talking about the floor in the AFC with the other teams that are over there that are going to be good, I mean, just look at the freaking AFC North. They all think they're going to the playoffs. Every single one of them thinks that they're going to the playoffs. The Ravens think they're going to be there. The Bengals think they're going to be there. The Browns think they're going to be there. And the Steelers think they're going to be there. That whole division has said we're going to the playoffs this season. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's so much talent in the AFC. No matter how it shakes out, you are going to have quality football teams that don't go to the playoffs. And that could very easily be the New York Jets.
No, I agree. Look, the AFC as a conference, when you think about all the different quarterbacks that are in it, is a murderer's row, period, point blank. And I look at the NFC, and even though you can't predict the future, I still believe when you think of the top of the NFC, and when you get further along into the season, you still talk about probably the same 5 teams. I think it's pretty consistent. Barring injury, you're going to be mentioning the Eagles and the Cowboys and the Niners. The Lions were one of the better teams of football last year. You're going to mention them as well. And I think
and
that
the Rams are your 5th one.
Look, the Rams, I've learned my lesson. You don't underestimate those Rams. Period. You're right. And they're going to come into it much better. The Rams, to me, was really impressive because they did everything they did last year with a bunch of rookie young guys on their defense. They're going to be that much better this year. So I would say the team that I would tell people to look out for would be the Rams in the NFC. But I digress. You make a great point. With all their talent on both sides of the football, it's not a walk that the Jets just step up and they're going to win 11 or 12 games. Not in the AFC. And you make a great point when you talk about with the Dolphins and the Bills in that same division. Are they relying on the fact that, well, we get to play the Patriots twice, so that's 2 wins? Like, I don't know that that's 2 wins because they're under new management. You don't know. You can't assume. So I think the Jets have to play their very best football on both sides of the football, get lucky in terms of health, and they're probably going to be a 10 or 11 win team.
Let's get JG up here on the show this morning. We got some Major League Baseball things to discuss. And when we got to talk baseball, we got to bring JG in to do it. JG, how are you this morning, sir?
Good morning, guys. Doing good. How are y'all?
Hey, good morning, JG.
JG, every now and then I like to throw some generic baseball things at you. I'll admit I do this, and I don't quite know why I do this. I think I do it because I'm a baseball fan. You're supposed to do it. Why is it that whenever the team that I am rooting for has a runner on base and we're playing at home, and the pitcher throws over there to check on the runner, why do I always boo the pitcher? Why is that my gut instinct? Because I know why he's throwing over there, JG. Baseball, I love baseball because it's filled with all of these little idiosyncrasies that, on the surface as a baseball fan, you're like, well, yeah, how dare you try to check on the runner? Just pitch the damn ball and get on with it. But when you have a logical conversation, we know why they're doing it. But isn't baseball filled with a bunch of little illogical things like that? Of why are we tearing apart the pitcher for doing his job and just making sure the runner's not getting a 7-foot lead off of the bag?
I actually don't know why that is the case. I laugh. I mean, as a former player, as a first baseman, I heard it quite a bit. I hear the boos all the time. I sit back, I'm laughing, like kind of what you just said. It's like, what are we supposed to do? All right, we're gonna let you get 10 to 12 feet off the bag and get a good jump. No, and there was actually times. The teams I played for, I had priority to call pickoffs just as much as the pitcher and catcher did. And there was when I was playing in Puerto Rico, and that was fun because I got booed quite a bit being an American in Puerto Rico, and we got picked off, and I would actually get boos because our pitcher was from Puerto Rico and everything, that I get booed quite a bit more. So I go, hey, call pick off again. And I loved it. I love being. I don't know why fans do that. I laugh about it because it's a strategy. You have to, especially if you know a runner is aggressive. If you know that what they're gonna try to get that timing down within the next 2 pitches, you're going to need to try to keep their feet moving and keep them closer to the bag. So it's a strategy. I think for a fan purpose, it's viewed as stalling. You're stalling the game. But I mean, again, you're like, hey, let's go pitch to my pitch about my batter. Let's go. Come on. You're wasting time type of. It's funny to me. I don't know why fans overreact to that point, but I always thought it was humorous for me.
And to your point, JG, I mean, before the pitch clock and before the 3-batter minimum for the relievers, it definitely was stalling. There definitely were moments where you're like, oh, someone's not ready. Oh, yep, he's going to throw to first. He's going to walk around the mound. He's going to check his clip. Like, there definitely was a stalling aspect to that back in the game. Not so much today because of those other things that we mentioned. All right, let's get into some more nitty-gritty baseball stuff. Pete Alonso was offered a contract by the New York Mets, and he politely declined. JG, I think that was going to be the expected move all along. I think the Mets were just doing the courtesy thing of saying, hey, we would like to retain you. This is the kind of money we're thinking about. And then obviously they'll revisit those conversations at the end when it's time to do so. What do you make of Alonso? Is he going to be a Met long-term? Do you think the offer was anything more than just a respect offer from the Mets? Do you think they really want to keep Alonso? Or do you think they fully knew that he wasn't going to accept that offer and they were doing it more for stancing than anything else?
No, I mean, I'm sure the Mets would love to have Alonso long-term in the franchise. They don't, I mean, he is essentially the franchise star, the face of the franchise. And if in every team, you need that face, you need that leader. And by default right now, Alonso is that guy for the Mets. I don't think you could look at Lindor, but the more noticeable name on that roster is Pete Alonso, who has been a focal point in that lineup for a very long time. So would the Mets like to keep him a long term? Absolutely, will they do. Will it happen? And I'm taking the quotes or the tweets from Steve Cohen, basically, who was asked and made a response on to someone supposedly supposed to be private and posted it public that a sell-off is going to happen at some point. That tells me that Alonso's not going to be on the team long term. And I think that's why the frustration for Mets fans and me as a Braves fan, I love it. I love when New Yorkers are angry. It's just fun. It's enjoyable, regardless if it's the Yankees or Mets. But New Yorkers are born to be angry, and I enjoy every second of it. But that's why they're frustrated, because they see what their team can be, but they're getting mixed signals that you want to keep the core that you have, but your owner's sitting there saying, well, a sell-off may happen or could happen or will happen. You were told 2-3 years ago by your new owner, Steve Cohen, we're going to win a championship within the first 5 years of my of me being an owner, and now here we are in year 3, and they're going to sell off at some point. So they're farther and farther away, moving from that World Series championship that was promised to Mets fans, and you're getting this mixed signal. So yeah, I mean, if you ask any Mets fan, would they want Pete Alonso to be the face of the franchise for the next 7 years, 10 years? Absolutely, I'm sure they would love to have that, because he has been he is the face. He has been that leader for this team. Will it happen? No, I expect a trade by the deadline. I think that a team that is needing that big bat, is going to make that offer for the Mets, where they can say, hey, we can't say no to this anymore. And there's a team like the Boston Red Sox comes to mind, who has a big hole at first base. And if they're playing as well as they continue to do, you could see a team like the Red Sox make that move to acquire Alonso and put him along with Rafael Devers in that lineup. I think that would be a great idea for them. But for the Mets, again, to answer off, would they want to keep Alonso long term? Yes. Will it happen? No.
JG, obviously I'm a little biased because I'm a Yankee fan, but I look at the Mets and there's been so much chatter about them all in on Juan Soto, and they're going to make Soto a priority in the offseason, which I understand because most teams that are interested in Soto would probably want to make him a priority. But why would Mets fans or the organization think that they're a destination for Juan Soto? If they're talking about a sell-off at the All-Star break, they can probably offer him money, but isn't he going to want to win baseball game? Like, I look at the Mets organization, and you know he's going to have offers from teams that can potentially put him in the playoffs on a regular basis, from teams that are going to contend for division titles, for teams that are going to be in the World Series conversation. So if you know that he's going to field a bunch of those offers while he's making his choice, what do you bring to the table as the Mets that would differentiate you as a contender to sign him? Because I look at it and I'm like, why? Why would he even consider the Mets?
Well, you stated it's money. If they do a sell-off like we kind of expect them to do, and that's Alonso who being traded, which they may have to eat a little bit, but it's a 1-year deal he's on right now. He's going to be getting extended. He's going to be getting a new contract. He'll be a free agent at the end of the season. Max Scherzer's contract comes off your books this offseason as well. He's in the final year of a 3-year deal, and you're still paying majority of that contract to the Rangers for acquiring Scherzer. That money comes off the books as well. So you're opening up a lot more money in the offseason that you can essentially outbid the New York Yankees right now. And so it would be, do I get more money from the Mets and go play in Queens, or do I play for the Yankees, who they're going to give me a good amount of money, but I'm on a better team, but it's not going to be as much the money as what the Mets are looking at as well. And that's the thing that you're going to see is how big of a difference is those two offers? If you're just saying those are the two offers for Soto, Yankees and Mets, how big of a difference is that contract offer going to be? Because and I'm sure at some point you may ask, or you've read it at least, where Steinbrenner's sons have came out and said, our financial situation's not good. You can brush that off. That's got to be a concern. That's got to be a concern that the owner's saying we're not in good financial situation right now. So I think that there's going to be a significant difference in the money offered between the Mets and Yankees. So now it's more of play for a team that is in better shape to win, or go make the most money, which we know the players' union is going to be in Soto's ear and go, you need to go make the most money, because that trickles down to the others that are there for us. So that's going to be a huge talking point this offseason for Juan Soto is, the financial side, or are you going to be playing for a team that could potentially be a contender? That, and that's going to be the deciding factor on where he's at with it.
JG, the Yankees are not going to lose Soto to the Mets. They might lose Soto somewhere else, but they are not going to lose Soto to little brother in the New York Mets. JG, is there any potential that the Dodgers get in on the Soto race? I mean, they just print money over there and they just do all these different things. I mean, why not?
I mean, they could do it. They could try to do another deferred option with him. I don't think Soto's going to buy into that. They can make that offer and they can say, "Hey, we'll pay you $600 million. You're not making as much as Ohtani. We can't. We're not going to make that happen as far as the grand value of the contract, but we'll make it. We'll make it where you're getting paid $5 million per season for the next 10 years, and then deferred money for another 10 years after that." I could see that being an option. I know Major League Baseball has been in discussions on how to limit the deferred money that they did with Ohtani, and trying to make sure that it's not that's not an option that to just try to circumvent payroll, because that's essentially what it is you're circumventing the payroll, you're circumventing the luxury tax as well. So a team like the Dodgers, who have unlimited money, can pay a superstar $2 million and think, well, hey, it's not hurting our luxury tax situation right now. That's down the road. So I know that's a conversation Major League Baseball is having right now. I don't know if Soto would be on board for that. Again, unless winning is a viable option, that he is a top priority, and he knows that the Dodgers can go and be able to be that for him. There's going to have to be some cuts for the Dodgers to do that as well. Because that's a lot of money. Even if you do deferred money, you're going to have to figure out other ways to at least maneuver around. But that would be the only way I could see that Soto goes to the Dodgers, if they do a deferred option. I just don't know if Soto is going to be on board to do that.
One name that hit Yankees' radar yesterday, which I think is a complete farce, because he is actually on record of saying that he would never be a New York Yankee, and that is Vlad Guerrero Jr. for Toronto. All of the trade rumors are coming up for Vlad now, as it looks like he could at least be in discussions to be moved around the All-Star break. JG, what is the value of Vlad Guerrero Jr.? Obviously, you look at his ceiling, you can argue one thing, but then you look at his production, which is a roller coaster ride, which is another thing. You look at the leadership side of it, which is another discussion. The marketability side of it is obviously there. He is one of the faces of that franchise. He's the face of a video game franchise right now. So there's definitely some superstar elements that Vlad Jr. possesses. But then you look at his overall game, and you could argue, but he hasn't really capitalized on that from a consistency stance. So if he becomes available, Toronto may want the world for him. They may think he's worth the world, but what is he actually worth in a mid-season trade situation?
I mean, you're going to get a lot for him. He's 25 years old, so young talent player, bopper in the lineup. My issue with Guerrero, and it's been this way for a few years, is he's got to be in better shape. He is strong. He's a good hitter. But if you're wanting to be in the conversation with Paul Goldschmidt, Freddie Freeman, Matt Olson, Pete Alonso, as some of the best first basemen in the game, you got to be well-rounded. And that's what, in Freddie Freeman, who probably is the best first baseman in the game right now, and I'll throw Goldschmidt in there with those two, basically being 1A and 1B. They're able to go and be Gold Glove first baseman as well as great hitters. And we know Guerrero's ability as a hitter, but defensively, it's just been above average. I think it's probably the best way you can describe him. And that's something that, again, you'll pay for the hitting. You'll pay for the power that he provides and the ability of being this great hitter. But you're getting a liability at first base. And as a former first baseman, I hate the whole, well, you can put anybody at first base. I hate that. I absolutely hate that mindset. So I don't have that feeling on it. But what is his value? You're gonna get somebody, because again, let's just say if Pete Alonso's not available, if he's not a trade, he's not going to get traded. So that means Guerrero Jr. is the top available first baseman, power hitting first baseman on the market. You can essentially ask for what you want if you're the Blue Jays, and more likely will get it from a team that is needing that power bat. Like I said, I don't know if the Red Sox would be a team that the Blue Jays would want to trade Guerrero Jr. to, but you could throw a team like the Rangers, who I know they have Nathaniel Lowe, who's a good first baseman for them, but you can put Guerrero Jr. in the lineup with Adolis Garcia and Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, Evan Carter, and really take off to another level offensively. I know their need is more on the pitching side, but you can go and look at some of the contenders. You possibly even look at the Guardians, throw him in that lineup at first base or as a DH too, and really enhance that lineup to be a contending status in the American League. So there's going to be some teams that are going to be interested in getting that bat. The issue, and because he is young, 25 years old, you're going to be asking for a lot. So the value's there for what he provides. My personal opinion on Guerrero, he needs to get just one offseason, get in good shape, be this again. We saw what his dad looked like for a long time in his career. And I know they're two different positions, but my goodness, you never question the shape that Vlad Sr. was in. Guerrero Jr. has been questionable in his shape for quite a while now. So I think that's something that he's going to need to really address in the offseason. But for the value, what he's going to bring to a team if he gets traded, astronomical in that lineup. And I think that's something that's going to let the Blue Jays ask for whatever they want.
JG, earlier this week, the Yankees dropped a couple of games to the Mariners. One of those games was pitched by Clark Schmidt. And after the game, he said that he thought he was tipping his pitches, and that's why he gave up a couple of home runs in that game. Mariners, Miguel Rojas actually said he was tipping his pitches, and that is why he gave up a couple of home runs in that game. So, JG, for the casual baseball fan in our audience, what does that look like? Because the pitcher is acknowledging after the game, I think I was tipping my pitches. The other side is like, yeah, he was tipping his pitches. Here we are in 2024 where, obviously the one thing you don't want to do when you're pitching is tip your pitches. So how do we end up there? Number one, why does the catcher not see it and kind of, keep it from happening? And what does that look like when you are a batter? Was there JG in the box saying, oh, he's tipping his pitches and launching them to the moon? Kind of walk us through that process.
So pitchers, there's every pitcher has a tendency, and so the great pitchers you don't know. And that's such a basic answer you can say, but they eliminate any opportunity to be able to tip a pitch. Every pitcher is going to show you something. Every pitcher is going to have that opportunity. It's going to provide you knowledge of what they're going to do. Now, if you're tipping a pitch, and it could be so much as a subtle movement with your glove, it could be a subtle movement of how you stand and how you move your feet, how you do your leg kick. There's so many different variables that are added into how you tip a pitch. And, there was I think was it Darvish at one point where his glove was not fully, and I'm right here, it wasn't fully like this. It was tilted just that much. And that was when he tilted like this, it was a curveball versus being here. So there's different things that you can look at as a hitter that you're trying to find the little tendency that they do that gives you at least the information needed to be ready for a certain pitch that you're locked in on, or maybe it's just how he slows his body down to a curveball. It's just, and to, like you said, a casual fan would have no idea. And even for a catcher, so that wouldn't really be the catcher's job to say, "Hey, you're tipping a pitch here." Sometimes the catcher will catch it. That's the staff in the dugout, the pitching, the pitching coach or the bench coach paying attention and saying, "Hey, he's doing something," and we got to make sure. And sometimes, and during the regular season at least, they don't even say anything during the game because they don't want him thinking about it too much. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, you're changing something in the middle of a game, and now you're getting away from the strategy of what you had. So a lot of times, like in that situation for Schmidt, if they caught it, they didn't tell him until afterward, after he was done pitching, after his start, just so they say, hey, this is what you were doing. This is why you weren't successful. So the next 4 days, we are eliminating that extra movement, or we're eliminating that tip. So when you go back out on day 5, you're able to go and pitch and be able to be what we know you can be. But sometimes they don't tell them just because they don't want it in their head and changing something that you don't really want to over complicate. But it could be just a subtle movement. It could be just an angle, a slight different angle in your glove, or your slight different angle in how your leg kick, or just the smallest extra movement in your body, or the least amount of movement in your body on how you throw a pitch. It's how you can be tipped off as a hitter. And if you know it, and if you know what you're looking for, even if you swing a mitt, you're telling the team down the line and say, hey, if he does this, be ready. We saw Bryce Harper do that a few years ago, or a couple of years ago, where he saw something popped out on that pitch that he was looking for, and goes and tells Alec Boehm and JT Realmuto and Rhys Hoskins and say, hey, if you see this, look for this for the next pitch. I think it was Hoskins, and the very next batter, 2 pitches in, he gets what he was looking for, and Hoskins hits a home run on that pitch that he was told by Harper. So it's a huge ordeal if you get caught tipping a pitch off, because at that point your advantage is gone.
JG, love the insight. Love having you on here 3 times a week, sir. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Have a great weekend, JG.
You guys as well. Appreciate it.
See, Mo, that knowledge right there is something that only a guy like JG can provide us with. That's why we love having him here.
I would have no clue about those little subtle movements to know that. No clue at all that was happening. Although I enjoyed the top of it when you guys were talking about the leadoff, because it made me think of when Ricky Henderson was in his prime. That guy would be like halfway to second base, and the pitcher just constantly throwing it over, and he never gets him. But It was just, I mean, I'm like, this guy has the biggest lead I've ever seen on the planet, and nobody could get him.
We had NBA basketball last night, Mo. The Mavericks steal game 1 from the Timberwolves on their home court. We talked about this. We talked about things change when you go from the scrappy underdog that has an edge, that's kind of pushing around the bully, to now you are the favorite in a series, and you're expected to win a series and potentially expected to win a title as well. And if you are Minnesota, that's kind of the transformation you went through the last couple of weeks. Going into that series, most people pick Denver to win the series. Then Minnesota goes in there and does what it does in 3 of those 4 games, absolutely locking down and destroying Denver. And then they erase the 20-point lead in game 4. And now all of a sudden, when they come into the Western Conference Finals, they're no longer the scrappy, edgy underdog team. They are they're going to get this done in 5 or 6. They're going to the finals. Dallas can't do what Denver did, and they're going to lock them. Whole different conversation when you are expected now to show out, Mo. I'm not saying Minnesota won't win the series. I'm not saying that the sky has fallen, because it's not, but not the ideal situation for Minnesota when the new expectations are on you. You had a lead late in this one. You couldn't hang on to it. Remember, the signature in that Denver series for Minnesota was the defense. At times, making Denver look inept on the offensive side of the ball. When crunch time came here late in this series, I think Dallas went on a 7 or 8-0 run late in the 4th quarter to get to where they had to be. What did you see from Dallas offensively? What did you see from Minnesota defensively? And what do you think we're going to see in game 2 of the series?
So offensively, the reason why I picked the Mavs to win the series, and again, when I say Mavs in 7, it's out of respect to how good Minnesota is. I think they very well could win the series. But my mindset was, they have to remember that the Mavs' best players, they're both perimeter players. It's a completely different monster. As versatile as Joker is, he's not hard to find. He's a center, even though I'm just being real. He's not hard to find, and he's not going to break you down off the dribble. He just isn't. You're dealing with 2 guys who, even when things aren't going well, can create something out of nothing. Kyrie in the first half was by far the best player in the game, and I think he rose to the challenge of Ant saying, I want Kyrie. And I was like, be careful what you ask for. I love Jamal Murray. I think he's a terrific player. great at shot creation and shot making. He's not Kyrie Irving. He's not. That is a completely different animal. That's a whole nother level. And I thought that Ant trying to guard Kyrie and keep up with him, I think that took away from his offense.
Yep.
That's hard work. And I just think that they might want to recalibrate and put Jaden McDaniels on Kyrie and maybe have Ant play Luka from time to time. But I when the game was close, Chris, I thought this is right where they want them. This is Luka time. And Luka controlled the pace. He made the shots. He made the plays. I don't think that game one means that game two is going to go the same way. The series will have its ebbs and flow. But I do think the fact that the Mavericks have two dominant shot creators, it creates a whole different situation for Minnesota's defense. And remember, even though Gobert's not guarding an elite defender now, because the Mavs spread the floor the way they do, I think you can still find ways to expose them. And you saw it at different points, even in the second half, because when he's playing that drop back coverage and Luka would penetrate, guess what they could do? They could lob it over the top to Lively or lob it over the top to Derrick Jones Jr. That drop coverage, it could be hit or miss. Look, it's what caused Milwaukee multiple series at times. Drop coverage to me is the equivalent of an NBA, the NFL going prevent defense.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like you're going to give up something in drop coverage. So I think that Minnesota might want to be more aggressive. They want to. I would press up on Dallas, because if you press up, there's ways you can trap Luka, ways you can trap Kyrie, and make someone else have to create something out of nothing. They don't have a lot of shot creators. It's Luka, it's Kyrie, and then everybody else. So I think this series is far from over, but I think Minnesota realizes like this is a completely different animal that you're dealing with. And I don't think what Kyrie and Luka did last night, I don't think it's sustainable for a 7-game series. You can't rely on your backcourt to score 60+ points a game. Like, they're going to need more help from their role players. Like, I thought last night, Minnesota got 25 points from their bench and Dallas got like 12.
Welcome back, partner.
That was the weirdest thing. I have no clue what happened. But the bottom line is I think this is going to be a terrific series. If game one is an indication of where we're going, this will be the series that we didn't really get from Minnesota and Denver. I know it went 7, but like I told Gene the other morning, it didn't feel like an epic 7-game series because of how Minnesota dominated Denver in Denver. You just don't see that. So I think this is going to be a great series. I think Anthony Edwards will respond. Like, if you look at the numbers, you go to the box score, you can say, well, Ant had 19 points and 11 rebounds and 8 assists, but he only shot 6 for 16. And they're going to need better for him because he's the guy that sets the table for that team. I thought they got a great game out of Jaden McDaniels. They're going to need it. I think the key to this series for them really comes down to this. If Karl Anthony Towns plays the way he played against Denver, Minnesota's going to win this series. It's that cut and dry.
It was very obvious if you were watching the game last night. The broadcast team pointed out as well, late in the fourth quarter, Ant was tired. They even said it. They said he's been running around chasing Kyrie on defense this entire game. He looks tired on the floor. And when you are tired on the floor late in the fourth quarter, when it's crunch time, you are not always going to be putting forth your best offensive performance. And I don't think, to you what you said, Mo, I don't think Minnesota is going to put Ant in that situation again in this series. I think they're going to make sure that he is changing up who he's on, and he is definitely going to be fresher when it comes to those fourth quarter moments, because he isn't going to be chasing around Kyrie all game, which essentially is what it felt like he was doing in yesterday's game. So I don't think we're going to see exactly the same outcome moving forward as both teams make their adjustments. But Mo, let's talk about this. So during that game, LeBron decided that he wanted to voice his opinion on the challenge rule. So LeBron tweeted out and said that he thinks that it is ridiculous that in the NBA you can challenge 2 calls, get both of your challenges correct, and then not receive additional challenges. He wants the rule changed. He thinks that you should be rewarded if you get both of your challenges correct. Very similar to what we see in the NFL. So LeBron's not coming completely out of left field here. Mo, thoughts on LeBron voicing his issue with the challenge rule?
I actually agree with him. I think that if you challenge plays and you get them correct, you should be rewarded. You should have the option of having another challenge in late game situations. So I'm with him. I think the NFL's idea is great. I think the NBA should adopt what the NFL is doing because it just makes sense to me. And if you go back to a couple of series, look, late in the game, when one of the games where Denver won, where it was close at one point, I thought had they had another call or another challenge, it really could have turned the momentum of the game around. It could have swung the game around. If you look at those Knicks Pacers games, those really close ones, those nail biters. Look, Rick Carlisle, he was ranting about, I don't understand how I can't challenge a play. If I win the challenge and I'm correct on it, why would I lose my challenge? That's a great way of thinking. LeBron sometimes likes to draw attention to himself. I think this time he is pointing out a flaw in the NBA, the way that the system works with the call. So I'm with him 100%. Like if you win a call or win a challenge, you should be rewarded the opportunity to make another challenge further along in the game. So I think he's got a great idea. I hope the NBA adopts that.
Mo, we got game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals tonight between the Celtics and the Pacers. Obviously, if you are a Pacers fan, there is no such thing as moral victories, but it was right there. It was right there for you, if not for a ridiculous 3 by Jalen in the corner, falling into the Indiana bench, elevating over the Indiana defender. If not for that, the Pacers would probably have a 1-0 lead in this series. So as we get ready for game 2 tonight, is this going to be a situation where in a few days we're looking back and we're saying, man, had they won game 1, this could have been something different. But after losing game 1 the way they did, then they came out flat in game 2. Like, is that what we're going to see tonight? Are we going to see a Pacers team that comes out a little flat because of the letdown from game 1? Or do you think just the opposites? Because game 2 has been the bugaboo for the Celtics this year in the playoffs. Is this going to be par for the course with Celtics game 2s where they're not going to look great? And then we got a tied series going into game 3.
And conventional wisdom tells us that the Pacers should have a letdown, right? How do you recover from that kind of gut punch of a loss? But this is a young Indiana team. It really is. I'm of the opinion that they don't know what they don't know. I really think that I expect Boston. If you're the Celtics, you have to think we should have lost that one, right? I think Boston tries to come out, punch them in the mouth early in game 2 and put this game away. But I think game 2 is going to be a great game. I don't think the Pacers are going to dwell on game 1. I don't. I think they see that if they can play at their pace, which the game was played at their pace, they have no problems going up against Boston. I can see it, and I think you would, that Boston has the best starting 5. But once you get down to 6, 7, 8, 9, Indiana's the better, deeper team. And I do think this is going to be a great series. I actually think Indiana comes out and they respond as if they didn't lose game 1. And I think game 2 is going to be as good as game 1. I don't know if they win that game because that's one of those opportunities. Very, very few veteran teams let that happen to them back to back against a young up and coming team. So I think Boston will find a way to win game 2. But I don't think Indiana is going to be. I don't think they're going to dwell on game 1. I think they're going to come out and they're going to play the way they play. I still think this is a 6-game series because I just think the Pacers give the Celtics problems in terms of their overall depth and their speed.
So, Mo, we talked a few days ago about the kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs, Harrison Butker. He used a commencement ceremony as an opportunity to speak about some of his personal beliefs and his personal values, if you will, when it comes to his feeling on women in today, different social groups today. His quotes are all over the place, and they're still being talked about now in the NFL because now we have his teammates who are in front of microphones. So of course, reporters are going to use this as an opportunity to ask certain players within the Kansas City Chiefs organization, "What did you think about Harrison's comments?" Which I'm sure they knew was coming, and I'm sure they talked about. Coach Reid was asked about it, and Coach Reid produced, while thoughtful, what very much seemed like a prepared in his mind ahead of time statement that he knew that he was going to make on it. Mahomes was also asked about it. His seemed to be a little more authentic, and that maybe that's why he's coming under fire this morning. So Mahomes was asked about it, and Mahomes talked about the character of the man that he sees every day. He talked about the character of the man that he has known as a teammate for the past 6 or 7 years. He talks about the character of the man that he has seen when it comes to interacting in everyday life, and basically said that, he's going to feel how he feels and he's going to have his beliefs on certain things. Mahomes acknowledged that he doesn't necessarily agree with Harrison on all of his beliefs when it comes to the world, but he doesn't necessarily judge Harrison on certain beliefs. He judges Harrison on the quality of the man that he has shown Patrick that he is over their time together as teammates with the Kansas City Chiefs. Now Patrick is under fire, Mo, because he didn't take a stronger stance. He did not condemn Harrison Butker for his comments that he made. He simply just said, we don't agree on certain things. Now, Mo, if you ask me, Patrick Mahomes was in a lose-lose situation here. Had he taken a stronger stance against Harrison Butker, now you're basically going against one of your teammates. Now you're creating potential locker room situations. Now you're basically saying that because I'm the quarterback of this team and I'm the focal point of this team and I'm one of the faces of the NFL, if I don't agree with what you say, that holds more weight than if the third string wide receiver doesn't agree with what you say.
Right.
So I had no issue with what Mahomes said. I think any backlash against Mahomes is absolutely ridiculous. What did you want him to say? He's not going to come out and rail on his teammates, nor should I think he should do that. He's not going to come out and get on his soapbox and go the other side and go, we love women. Women shouldn't be doing anything they want to do, Mo. He's not going to do that because that's not going to seem authentic. I mean, what more could the guy have done besides what he did? Say that I don't agree with his comments. That's not how I feel. And then say, you should judge someone based on more than just one of their beliefs in one particular situation. You should judge them on the character they've shown you for years and years and years. What else could he have done out there?
I think Patrick Mahomes answered the question a lot better than Andy Reid did. I mean, he gave an authentic answer. But like you said, is he supposed to kill his teammate because he don't agree with him? He said the right thing. I thought he said it from his heart too. Look, he doesn't agree with what he said, but he judges him on the guy that he sees every day in and out, on the character of the man. And look, I don't agree with what he said, but at the same time, he has every right to say it. And if that's what he believes, he has every right to believe it. So I don't have a problem with him expressing his opinions or his beliefs. Not at all. He has every right to do so. And I think that Patrick Mahomes, like you said, he's in a lose-lose situation. If he doesn't come out and rail against him, then you're saying like, oh, so you just letting him get away with that. And by default, that means you believe what he believes. It doesn't have to be that way. It's really as simple as this. I think Patrick Mahomes believes that his teammate has every right to feel how he feels. But just because he says those things or expresses those beliefs, it doesn't mean that he's a bad person or a negative on that team. So I think Patrick Mahomes answered it as well as expected. I don't think there's a perfect answer to that question. Because I think if you go too deep into answering it, then you're wading into those political waters, and you don't need to do that.
And Wire to Wire Sports Podcast here in the comments brings up a really, really good point. Let's not forget the school that Harrison was making these comments at. It was a school that has a history of having the same beliefs that Harrison was reflecting in his comments. So Harrison was clearly aware of the audience that he was speaking to. Mo, it's not like he went to a pro women's rally and just
Right.
started railing against women.
Right.
He was speaking things that I am sure he was aware would be accepted and would resonate with the group of people that he was saying them to. To make it very simple for all of you out there, he knew the audience. He took the temperature of the room. He knew that he was wading in safe waters. It's not like he was doing anything crazy from that regard. So, but again, it was a lose-lose situation for Mahomes. And those of you who are railing on Patrick this morning, I would like to see you have done better. I would like to see you have come out of that situation looking any better than Patrick did, because I thought he came out looking as best as he was going to, given the criticism that he was still going to be facing afterwards.
I thought Andy Reid gave one of those kind of answers that you give when you ask him about how the seasons are going. Well, we take it one game at a time.
Right,
The
right.
team is getting like he gave the you got to look ahead. It's week at a time. He gave that kind of an answer. Patrick Mahomes gave an authentic answer, and I have no problem at all with his answer.
You could take Coach Reid's answer and plug it in after multiple other questions about multiple other things, and it would probably work on some level as an answer to that question, because it was one of those very philosophical, but also generic, and you can apply it to any situation type of responses.
You really can. You can just fill in the blank.
Mo, good show on a Thursday, sir. Take us to the end.
Thank you guys for joining Chris and I this morning. Appreciate your support. Make sure you check out all the great content that we have at the Wire to Wire Network. Wire to Wire Network, we appreciate you.
Make sure you're back with us tomorrow morning. We'll talk more NBA. We got more NFL stuff on the docket. It's Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show powered by Wire to Wire Network, and we will see all of you